Hi friends, and welcome to the first episode of the Meditative Aiden video experience. I'm going to be talking about mindful resolution, which was the very first blog post that I put up on the Meditative Aiden website. And in this blog post I talked about the circumstances that led to me developing mindfulness, that kind of led me towards beginning a trail, or the path of mindfulness. And then what I've learned from it so far and why I set a resolution to develop stronger mindful habits. So very first, the circumstances that led up to me, developing mindfulness. I was up at college, I was up at university, and I was working a ton. I was taking a ton of classes. I was working about 40 to 80 hours a week. I was working so much and such random hours all the time. I was in a few different organizations. Really what I'm saying is that I was overloaded with so much. There was so much going on in my life at the time. And what happened is, at one point, I got really sick, to the point where I couldn't move. I was sitting down in a chair at work, and I literally could not move out of the chair. I went to see a doctor, a family doctor about this, who emphasized in, emotional health and psychological well-being. And when we sat down and talked, I mentioned this to him, that, I sat down and I wasn't able to move. While I was walking in there, I was expecting him to, get me some kind of prescription for, heaven knows what, some kind of drug, something to keep me awake. And what happened is I actually walked out with a prescription for a book and advice to try meditating. So I read the book, I went home, I got it on Audible and decided I'm going to check this out. I'm going to see what this doctor's up to. And as I was listening to the book, it was talking a lot about letting go of our experiences of stress. And at the time that didn't make a lot of sense to me, so I kind of brushed it off to the side and just didn't pay attention to it. So then what happened is I continued with the meditation app. I tried that out, and I remember the only time I tried it was when it was before work, and I was just trying to get a few minutes in just to check the box so that I could tell the doctor I did it. I sat down in my car in the parking garage. It was like 5 minutes before work started, and just tried it out. And I meditated for like 3 minutes. And it wasn't really that great of an experience, but I remember there being a lot of calm and a lot of peace in that moment. So after that, I didn't actually meditate or do anything mindfully related for another couple months. But it kept nagging in the back of my mind, this need to sit down and try it one more time. So I had a friend at the time that was using a meditation app, and he was finding a lot of peace through it, and he recommended it to me as well. And that was kind of one of the points that pushed me onto the trail, that gave me an indication that maybe it was something worth trying, because my friend was struggling with a lot of stress at the time, and he was finding a lot of peace in it, and finding a greater ability to fall asleep. It was easier for him to wake up and things like that. So I started meditating a little more regularly. I tried it a few more times. I was like, yeah, it's not really for me. And I think a lot of that was because when I was preparing for meditation, I just thought about all the people who you think about meditating. These hippies who were sitting in baggy clothing, covered in like bead necklaces, and are like sitting next to a trickling stream that's just super pretty in a field of flowers or whatever. They've got their hands up, and they're, got this weird little smile on their face, and trying to connect to some ultimate higher being. And the truth is that that's not really how meditation works. And I learned that through my experience moving forward, that as I sat down and started to meditate more and more frequently, that there was less of that kind of hippie nature and more of just finding a calm awareness of the present moment. So eventually what happened is I decided to set a goal. I said, I'm going to meditate before bed every night, just for like 3 minutes. And that's all I did. And I did it like once or twice a week. And after a couple of months, I was meditating every single night before bed. And I almost, I could do it, but I could go to bed without needing to meditate. But if I did that, it took me longer to fall asleep. There was this one particular experience that I remember really well, where I was sitting down in bed again, just ready to chill out, call it a night, and I started my meditation, and a really clear sense of peace started to come over me. I felt just like everything had been washed away. And that's the only way I know how to describe it, that it was like, as I entered this meditative experience, all of the stress that I was feeling kind of was pushed to the sides. It didn't, that doesn't mean it disappeared, but like when I was sitting there, it felt like I didn't have to worry about that stress. And it lasted for the entire meditation, which at the time was like 5 minutes. And for me, that was a big deal because I hardly ever had experiences with that much peace that lasted for that long. And so I really decided I want to make something more of this. And over the past year and a half, as I've been meditating, the past 2.5 years really, I have really deepened this practice to find a much deeper sense of meaning and a much deeper sense of peace in this. The reason that I set this resolution, that I set these goals, was because I wanted to take my practice to the next level, to learn how to really engage with this sense of mindfulness and understand how it can help me. So the resolution that I set was that I wanted to meditate for 20 minutes for a total of 150 days in the year. And I'll tell you that from my experience so far, I've learned 3 major things. The very first thing that I've learned is how to exist with difficult emotions and sensations and, just that turbulence that rocks your little airplane of life with a greater sense of peace and calm and acceptance, and to look into those experiences with curiosity, with a desire to learn. And what I mean by that is that when I sit down and I'm feeling difficult emotions, or if I'm at work and I'm feeling a difficult emotion, I've learned how to change the way that I experience that moment. And the reason is that meditation develops this sense of mindfulness. And mindfulness is what gives you the opportunity to redefine your perception, because there's always something that happens to you, and there's always a time that you react. And usually the gap in between is really small. But mindfulness kind of creates a gap that's a little larger so that you have more time to think about what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, how you're thinking about it, how you're perceiving it, and then how you're going to respond to that. And that's really where the power of this first lesson came into play, was while I was particularly at work, which was really stressful at the time, learning that when stressful events occurred, they didn't have to impact how I felt. The second lesson that I learned has to deal with my ability to live in the present moment. When you hear that, you might think that I'm saying my ability to just eat, drink, and be merry. And that's not what I mean at all. What I mean is that my experience of the here and now is so deeply enriched by my mindful practices and the tools that I've developed that I'm able to engage and bring my entire presence into the experiences that I'm having with other people, with conversations, with work, projects, tasks, you name it. And the reason for this is that mindfulness and the practice of mindfulness helps teach you how to focus your attention and your consciousness on a single moment, which is this very moment that exists right now. And one of the clearest benefits that I've found already is that when I sit down and have a conversation with someone, my mind isn't wandering somewhere else or thinking of the next thing that I need to do. My mind isn't thinking about how to respond or what I'm going to say next. Rather, my mind kind of calms down and takes a moment to really feel what the person is saying and allow myself to experience it and to be there with that person. And I think that all of us can speak to the experience of having someone that you're with, that you say something to, and that person just doesn't really seem like they're there. They are kind of gone, or they're thinking about something else. And mindfulness has taught me how to be in the moment and to appreciate the present moment. And the reason that's so powerful is because the present moment is all that you have. I think that what's really important to note here is that when things occur, when conversations happen, you're able to give that task in the present moment your full and undivided attention. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't get distracted when things happen. Rather, this just means that as distractions come, I've learned to acknowledge them, I've learned to give them the attention they need, but to put them to the side until the conversation or my focus is done on the subject at hand. The third thing that I've learned from my experience meditating is how to limit the cravings that I'm experiencing, how to limit the experience of anxiety and depression, and not to say that I'm shutting off those experiences, but rather those experiences aren't as severe as they used to be. There used to be days where I would come home and I would lay in bed and I could not get up just because I had so little energy, so little will to get up and move. I had so little desire to do anything else. And there were days where I would be driving and have these massive flashes of anxiety. It would make me terrified to drive. I was scared of all the people moving around on the freeway. What mindfulness has taught me is, and this relates to the other two lessons, is that when you are experiencing those emotions, those moments, you have the opportunity to redefine how you're going to relate to that. An example for me has been when I'm experiencing a moment of depression. I used to think that I was bad, it was bad for me to feel that way. I used to think that I was not a good person because I was lazy, and I could list off 100 other things that I would say about myself. But rather what I do now is I'm able to look at that experience and say, I recognize that I'm feeling a little bit of depression right now. I recognize that I'm experiencing a really deep sadness. And I give myself the opportunity to investigate that and accept it and not be afraid of it, because when you experience things, there are a variety of different ways you can respond, but the primary ones, you can either run from it, you can try to fight it, and mindfulness teaches us the in-between, how to be with it and experience it and accept it. Over the course of the past 2.5 years, as I've gone through some of these changes to, live a more meaningful, fulfilled life with a greater sense of well-being, both physical and spiritual and emotional, the thing is that mindfulness has helped me, and I know that it can help you. It has the opportunity to help you learn how to cope with your stresses, which is why I really want to encourage you guys, after checking out this video, to go and find something to help you develop your mindful practice and to develop a sense of mindfulness in your life, because that practice is going to give you a sense of well-being, a sense of fulfillment, and help you learn how to cope with reality in healthier ways, which I think is really important because so many of us right now really struggle with understanding how to cope with our reality in a way that is healthy. And that's a lot of what I've been learning over the past couple of years, is how do I cope with my reality in a way that's healthy, because I was definitely coping with it in some unhealthy ways. This has really helped me learn how to cope with these things by sitting down and learning how to experience them differently. I know that mindfulness can help you as you learn to experience things differently. And if you're interested in learning more, I really encourage you to go and check out meditativeaiden.com, or also any variety of resources that are out there that can teach you about mindfulness and meditation and yoga, or whatever it is that helps you develop that sense of mindfulness in your life. I want to say thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys, and I hope that if you like the video, you'll like it and maybe hit subscribe below. You can find more information at meditativeaiden.com. We have an Instagram, we have a Facebook, we have a few puppies, we have a water bottle, and I'm pretty sure we have an alien spaceship as well. Thanks again, guys.